And I'm Julie Kelly. I'm the coordinator of Mass in Motion Fall River, and we're going to take a little tour around some of the areas that Mass in Motion is working. And this Mass in Motion is, I think, different than probably the others in that we had a head start. We were an implementation grant and got running right from day one. And that is primarily because of the work of Dave and Marcia and others who really, laid the groundwork for Mass in Motion to hit the ground running. So, and you will see the results of what Healthy City Fall River does in terms of documenting the work of Mass in Motion. And so I guess we'll hit the road. The trolley makes it a little more difficult to have a conversation. But ideally, we'll be able to stop a couple of places and then get back in order to complete the discussion up on at City Hall. We're on our way to Cook Pond, and there are people that don't even know this pond exists. So when I started to work for Mass in Motion, I went to the Father Kelly Neighborhood Association meeting, and I had just ridden one of the city bicycles around the pond, and I, was exclaiming how beautiful. And they said, "Oh, we have been wanting to reclaim this pond forever." And so they have been right behind this. Also, the state rep has gotten involved. If you look out now, this was almost invisible. You could not see these kids. Kelly, Kelly was here one day to work on it. Do you want to talk about what?
Conservation Corps, Youth Corps is a program of the trustees of reservations, and it's a program that employs, this past summer I think there were 30 plus high school kids, about 16 to 19 years of age. They were divided up into 4 groups. One group spent 4 weeks here trimming, cleaning, removing invasive species, cleaning up, taking out trash, cutting back branches. And I have to say, I was here the very first week, and this wall had growth. There was greenery and weeds coming up in the cracks of the sidewalk, and you could not really see the pond at all. And so after 4 weeks of hard work, I haven't seen it since the very first day, and I am blown away. It's amazing. So I hope, it's an asset for the neighborhood, and I think the neighbors were so excited to see that they could see the pond again.
But we've been talking about this and with TTOR for a couple of years now, and they have now come to the table and said we want to help out in terms of, they've started to move more towards urban planning and urban conservation. So we've been talking to the school department. There's one of the middle schools is on the pond. Some of the other owners, NSTAR and TTOR has a contact with NSTAR. So we are hoping, we've now decided on phase 1, which starts here, and we'll continue down to where there's a fisheries and wildlife path, a boat ramp. That's right, a boat ramp. And there's plans to redo that and to put right now it's just a dirt road going down to it. And, it's a sketchy kind of place, so people do not utilize it very much. They're afraid. And so we just think by opening, and what I love is that the National Guard is right behind us with this. They want to see the pathway. They want to open it up. They know it will be safer. There'll be less crime kind of activities going on there. So this has been really a great process. The kids can't wait to come back next summer. They're very, very engaged in the process. And one of them, when I was asking for quotes for an article, and he said, "I love it when people pass by and thank us for the good job that we're doing." And one of them said, "I want to come back and know that I was part of the beginning of the process of making this happen." So really nice.
Great story.
Get me a signature.
So So I'll start. I'm Julie Kelly, and I'm the coordinator for Mass in Motion for the City of Fall River.
Brenda Verity,
We traveled down to Cook Pond, passing Father Kelly Park, Kennedy Park, the little green there, and maybe you could just say a few words, Sandy, about the work that you've been doing too, and kind of how it all began.
Okay, well, it started probably 3 years ago with Julie, and Julie started the Fall River Park Advocates, and I was the Fall River Park Advocates coordinator. And basically what we did is we advocated for clean, safe parks and open spaces in the city. A couple of projects, one in particular came up that needed some advocating, and it was a piece of land on the corner of President Avenue and Robeson Street. And it was next to the Highland School and Truesdale Clinic. And the concern was that the building would be sold, but then the land would then be purchased by the clinic for parking. So the neighborhood didn't want that. So we had citizen input. We did a big outreach for advocacy, did a lot of citizen input from citizens just in the community advocating to keep that as open space and a park. Al did some renderings for it and presented those. And then about a year later, it kind of simmered down for a little while, and then it kind of rose its ugly head again. And that's when the neighborhood associations really advocated for it, and they did citizen input, they did rallies, they did everything, and that piece of land got saved, and it's now under the jurisdiction of the Parks Department. And that was done through City Council vote. We also implemented the citywide park cleanups, and the first year we had probably over 100 volunteers. The second year we had over 200 volunteers. Last year the mayor collaborated and coordinated with us, and there were over 500 volunteers. So not only has it doubled, but last year with the mayor's involvement it more than doubled. So it was very successful, and it's been successful every year. We also implemented the Adopt a Park program, where organizations and neighborhood associations adopt parks and open space in the city, and that's been extremely successful. That's really, you'll see a lot more activity in the parks, a lot more advocating in the parks, a lot more grant money going towards parks in the city. So the Adopt a Park program has really proven to be successful as well, and every year we grow bigger and bigger. We add.
When I was telling you that we had applied a grant for 5 playgrounds to be restored, and it was denied, and then Park Advocates put out a call because there was going to be a hearing for community development funds, and so people came and advocated for funding, even in this terrible lean time, that there need to be some statement on the part of the city to see park restoration. And they were told, well, you know the process, just fill out the grant papers and apply for a CDA grant. And so Fall River Park Advocates, Sandy, helped the Niagara Park Neighborhood Association apply and received the grant to restore Pulaski Park, which has been done. So it was the first, I think.
Yeah, it was exciting because, they didn't know how to, not that I'm a grant writer, I'm not a grant writer by any means, but we were able to at least help them with some language and key points to put in it for community development, and we kind of walked them through the process of what to do and how to do it. So, I mean, everyone was pretty excited about that, especially me, because I'm not a grant writer. But I did put together a whole packet of some of the things that the Fall River Park Advocate has done over the last year, because we've done a number of different programs, sponsored Family Safety Instincts, we did the Homestead event. So, okay, because there's just a whole host of things that we've been involved in this year.
It's one of the things that we've, in terms of the city, is not only issues of violence, but perceived violence. And so keeping the parks clean, making sure that the police have a presence in the parks. We've been working with the police department, and the police chief is very, very supportive in that regard. And also offering a self-defense course, kind of a lightweight, I guess, self-defense course so that people can be aware as they're leaving their cars or they're walking through their parks. The neighborhood associations have requested the police departments to make very, very explicit reports to them at each of their neighborhoods meetings. So you go to those meetings and you get a little overwhelmed by the number of assaults and thefts and other kinds of break-ins that have taken place. And so you really need to be counteracting that with safety, determining safety, getting the police involved, and also as part of a larger group, the Southcoast Outdoor Network, which is a brand new, about 8 months, Dave?
A little over a year now.
A little over a year. Had Richard Louv, who wrote Last Child in the Woods, and that was a regional effort with New Bedford, Massamotion, Fall River, and a multitude of other groups, libraries and the universities and other groups that sponsored that. But it was a wonderful, just informational program, and the reason why it's so important to be doing the kind of work that Massamotion is doing in this community.
MIM 1, 2, and actually 3 were very essential in getting the park advocates position, Sandy's position established and jump-starting it. So it's not a situation where we're tagging on with this group, but in fact, a lot of the work in the first couple of years was nurturing it, helping it to grow, helping it to get established, getting someone to come on board, and helping with some of that funding as well. So that now at this point, it's grown, it's, as she said, you're involved in so many different things going on. So we have both a collaborative, but what was initially a nurturing, setting it up, helping it get going.
And getting it onto the open space and
Right, getting
recreation
on to
plan.
the whole thing. So it's more, I think it's important to understand it's more than that, than just a working relationship.
Just a quick
Is
to tell
that
you how,
correct, Sandy?
yeah, it is, and to tell you the recognition that it's gotten is this morning, myself and Ken Pacheco met with representatives from New Bedford at the dog park because of the open space and recreation plan in parks, because they want to put a dog park in New Bedford and they don't know how to begin, so they looked to us for help and guidance in that. So it's not like the Fall River Park Advocates, it's just in Fall River, because people are knowing about us outside of the area now. So,
And again, Fall River Park Advocates is part of the Urban Park Advocates, which is out of the trustees of reservations. So that's how that connection began, was with the trustees to Mass in Motion to starting the Park Advocates.
So Sandy's funding comes from the trustees?
Cindy is now a complete volunteer. She was that's the word. For the amount of hours and the extraordinary work, yes, yeah. So
you can't just let it go, because it's gotten to a point now that, you just got to keep going with it.
And I just have to add, she also is the president of Arts United in Fall River. And so, when Mass in Motion started the Staircase Gallery, it was a great idea, but how do you keep the art coming and going? And we've had 2 art shows on the Staircase a year since we started almost 4 years ago. And Arts United has been able to, put the word out, get the Fall River Camera Club, get one of the daycare centers. I mean, we've had art, the police, the fire department. Yeah, so it's been very eclectic shows that have happened and really showcase what the city, the city's creativity in all age groups. So that's been wonderful.
There's a larger effort underway to get communities in the Town River Basin to pass the CPA, and have been asked in the past to join the effort, but we always felt it wouldn't pass here in Fall River. And cities have been difficult to get the CPA passed. So, but this year we just felt that we could do it. For some reason we feel that we have a chance this year. So in January I contacted Kelly and see if we could meet and get the effort underway. And it has been underway now. I forgot to bring our brochures. But it has the potential to raise $1 million a year for park and historic, open space and recreation projects, historic preservation, and the housing projects as well. Now, the city itself would raise, that would require 1.5% levy on all real estate tax bills. That's what the city council approved for a referendum in November. November 6th will be voted on. But it'll raise about $750,000 from local funds, and then we'd get a match of about $250,000 from the state. So we'd get about $1 million a year, assuming the same state match. But the match may be going up, has gone up already. The legislature voted for it to rise already. But that, in turn, that $1 million would match another anywhere between $1 million to $10 million more dollars per year from state and federal matching funds. So it has a wonderful potential to really just make our efforts at improving our parks and playgrounds and bike paths and other things related to health issues. Make them just improve so much. A good example of why we need this, it happened a few years ago, whereby the city did receive a grant to upgrade North Park, one of our major parks, but then the city had to turn the grant back because it didn't have $73,000 to match it, only $73,000. But we still had to give that match back, and that really hurt. And this situation will occur every year if we don't do something about it, if we don't pass the CPA. So it's a huge educational effort because nobody wants to raise their taxes even 1.5%. But we have a good educational campaign underway. Kelly and from the trustees and Kim Gilman from TPL have been providing us with technical assistance. Now it's Kelly really alone who's helping us for the most part. So, but we have a good committee going, and we feel we do it. And if it does pass, and I feel confident that it will pass, that it will just make a huge difference in what happens in the city. And I'd like to give credit to Julie too, because I have to say that before Julie came on board, not much was happening in the way of bike paths and other linear recreational activities. And things have just changed remarkably. I don't know of any other program like Mass in Motion that has made such changes in this community. It really has made a remarkable difference, and Julie's been wonderful. I just can't say enough good things about you and about the program. It's just remarkable, and I wouldn't say that if it wasn't true, but it's
Great to hear all the successes, and this is an opportunity to brag. If there's future issues that, like, what's the next piece, because you have a long legacy of successes, and if there's also any challenges that you foresee that that the state could assist with, that training or building skills of your constituents and many partners could help with too. So if you could.
I think, sure. Talking to Julie, we come forward and we want to move forward a little faster than what we're able to, because as we described, we know that the police department has bicycles. We know that the school department needs them, but yet there was no structure of how do you take this property that belongs to this part of the city and have the municipality work together to work it out. I don't know how she did it, but I agree that seems to be always a roadblock in getting everybody to communicate and work together and share resources, so you're not competing. And so again, I'd say a strength to combat any of the traditional problems is because of how she's positioned in the city, where that then empowers me to go to the superintendent and say, I know there's already communications between facilities for storing them and also the police department, and they're working on it, and I can report back that everybody is comfortable with us using them. Or again, what about the safety of if kids ride the bike and they get hurt on it? Again, where's the liability? I believe it's key that the position that she's in, that she's able to help speed up and move forward things that traditionally take a long time and usually get in the way of getting things to happen. I mean, we have great ideas, but to get them actually implemented and happening by the summer, many times I said, I don't know if we can do it. I'll get back to you, I'll get back to you. And then we decided to make the summer program a pilot, to then move forward to say to the school committee, we can make the change, to sustain it later on. So I see that that's one solution to it. Again, individual funding in how it's supported for classroom instruction. It's difficult to say, I need a wrench for a bike or a widget for this one specific bike brand, because again, you have to get 3 outside vendors and get the lowest bid and make sure that they're supported. We're finding that that's holding us up. So we're looking for our own ability to write grants where we can then go to Target and get the cheapest widget compared to then using the state vendor that's associated with it. So we're afraid of wasting funds because we're tied to using this particular vendor source or something for that.
As you know, Mass in Motion is now, a lot of it is state funded versus the private that we had originally. I know with a lot of other communities, what they're doing now is their CHNAS, the Community Health Network Association, the funding through the DON, they've kind of like changed how their funding sources are, and a lot of it is in line with Mass in Motion priorities around nutrition and physical activity. And they do mini grants. Some of them do anywhere between $300 to $5,000 or $3,000. So that's actually another resource that a lot of the communities have been tapping into just for that seed money. So I know that, Fall River has a really good group, and New Bedford has one as well. So the partnership that you've been able to build, the very great partnership, both traditional and non-traditionals, those are good resources to tap into.
That we are coming down to a date for submission of a groundwork Southcoast request, and that's something that Marcia, it's been a collaboration between New Bedford and Fall River to go for, and if you're familiar with Groundworks Lawrence or Somerville or Providence, they have done amazing community development. Both, the grants come from the Environmental Protection Agency, this is federal, and the National Park Services. And so word came out about 1.5 years ago, and both Mass in Motions organized meetings of community people to come together and talk about the potential, because I think with Mass in Motion at that time, every year it's kind of touch and go, and so what is going to sustain this work? And groundwork is a perfect solution to that, or one of maybe many solutions. This would definitely be regional, and it would be working closely with the trustees and SEAL, and which is another environmental group in the communities. But it would be regional in aspect. It looks at brownfields, and it looks at youth development and job development. Each one is somewhat different, applying, responding to community needs. So we just got word after we wrote the grant 1 year ago. We've been, changing, tweaking it for an entire.
For when it came out.
And we just got word that by the end of September, it should the request that will be put out for a response. So we're excited about that.
I don't know if you want me to.
Sure.
Okay.
Please.
Until about a little bit more than 2 years ago, when it came to bicycling in Fall River, it did not exist. There was no organization, nothing. Couldn't find out any information about rides or anything. And I believe it was a park advocates meeting that took place that advertised they were going to talk about bicycling in Fall River. So I showed up, and a few other bicyclists did show up. And from there, and when I say there was almost nothing, it would be me and 2 or 3 of my friends would be bicycling. From there, we have grown due to a lot of hard work on Julie's part. I send out now, because I'm the chairman, over 100 emails when we have a ride, and we have a Facebook page which has over 100 members there. And the funny thing is, most of the members on Facebook are not getting the emails, so they're getting the information through Facebook. So we have close to about 300 people now that are very involved. Over the 2 years, as I said, we've grown. We've had so many different events. We had a bicycle safety day where Julie helped put together and was able to get, I think, about 300 helmets for children.
200,
We're looking now at different bicycle striping lanes in the city. We have a ride almost every weekend now, whether it's in the city. A few weeks ago we had a beautiful ride. It was a little over 30 miles around the bioreserve, and it was gorgeous, and the people enjoyed it. On that ride, 18 people showed up. The next week we had a ride through the bioreserve. 18 people showed up, but most of them were different people. So we're always having new people come on board. Al, who's our resident historian in the city, has already done a few historical rides on a Saturday morning with bicyclists. So we've had all these type of things going on. And also, because of all this, more and more people are becoming very interested in taking up bicycling for health reasons, for getting out there and just enjoying the scenery. And we'll bicycle in the city. We set up bicycle rides now in other communities through bike paths. And of course, again, through Julie's efforts, we're fighting now for a beautiful, the beautiful Quikasham Bikeway that's going to go through the center of the city. So in 2 years' time, the thought of bicycling has increased incredibly in the city. We've been covered by the local newspaper, the local radio station, and I've been interviewed several times by local cable. And that is in 2 years' time from 0, as they say, to 60. It's amazing. And I also, like Al, want to applaud the tremendous efforts that Julie puts into this. It's incredible.
So we need to look at the next generation of bicyclists. And accordingly, I meet every month with the physical education teachers from the elementary and the middle schools in Fall River because there is no department head for physical education, and that's my background is health and PE. I meet with them on a monthly basis to provide professional development, so I bring in people from the outside world who can talk about tobacco control, substance abuse, health issues, and so forth. Julie has come in a number of times to talk with the PE teachers about bicycle opportunities. And we started wondering about how many students in Fall River actually own bicycles. Do they bicycle? Where do they bicycle? How often do they bicycle? So we had created a survey which was facilitated or implemented by the physical education teachers from 3rd grade to 8th grade in all of the elementary and middle schools in the city.
And you actually have it in your packets.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you have the survey.
We got 100% return because we did it through the teachers, asking them the questions. Very encouragingly, there were a great many students who do own bicycles, a great many who do ride bicycles. We did find out where they rode, so all of that was in high double digits. However, when we asked about who wears helmets, when we asked boys and girls, it was single digits, so it was a little disturbing. So we definitely have to do, is that we talked about challenges, that education component about what they should be doing in the way of safety and where they should be riding, and the rules of the road and so forth. Fall River for the last 4 years has participated in the International Walk to School Day as well as the Massachusetts Walk to School Day. One happens in the fall, one happens in the spring. This year we get an excellent turnout. This year for the May Walk to School Day, we had what I believe is the best turnout in the state. Every single one, 100% of the elementary schools and 100% of the middle schools walked. This is teachers and students and so forth. We had over 5,000 students and teachers walking in the city. We had decided, why don't we combine this with a bike to school ride? And so we confronted the physical education teacher and the principal and vice principal, very supportive from one of the elementary schools. We had arranged, Judy had arranged for one of the safety officers from the police department to go in and do an assembly with the children a couple of days before saying, we're going to be doing this. This is what you need to be doing. You need to be wearing bike helmets, safety, blah, 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 all of the things that the students really needed to know. Then later that day, they went in and they gave out bike helmets to those students who wanted to ride who did not have the bike helmets. So it wasn't ostracizing any child who, I really want to ride, but I don't have a helmet, so I have to stay home. I have to be driven to school or whatever. And got 40, 45, or it's a very small school. It has about 320 students. And there were maybe 45 that were biking. And with the police escort, on bikes, I say escort, they were participants, not so much of we want to be safe with the students, but it was just so much fun to see them. So there were kids with their training wheel bikes and all. I mean, it was just very, very, it was heartwarming, it really was. So it's kind of exposing the young people in the community to the biking opportunities and that education. I'm very much a part of this regional bike committee that's working in multiple communities, and I'm a member of the Dartmouth Bike Committee, which is where I live. And we've gone before Westport and New Bedford, Dartmouth rather, about forming their own bike committees. And what we've been hearing from selectmen and so forth is the safety aspect of it. And, you know, bicyclists really need to know that they shouldn't be riding 3 abreast and all. And I tell them, literally, it's a two-way street. Drivers really need to know about bicyclists and what the rules of the road are. So that education component is huge. People need to know the rights and the wrongs as far as bicycling goes.
And I think that's an area maybe that, in terms of connections, we've seen, you know, just bicycling and off-road routes, funding for that being absolutely slashed at the federal level, which is going to reflect on the state.
These demonstration grants that are helping the state and the federal government understand how we can use the built environment to help create policy that does just what you're talking about, that kind of brings the disconnects together, that finds ways to make sure that health impact assessments are happening in all different stages of government, but ultimately to make sure that policy is guided by how do we create a healthier environment. It's part of the system of creating policy. So Massachusetts is one of now, I think, 4 states that has been tagged as to do these demonstration grants to help try to make this health impact assessments be part of the system of how do we create policy and make sure that health is a leading force in the policy that we're creating. So I hear you in what you're talking about and making sure that the state government is working with municipalities to make sure that we can eliminate disconnects, we can make sure that there's ways that other state agencies are working together as opposed to in silos, thinking that getting people active, getting built environments that are helping people stay active is a critical part of making sure that we continue to do policy in that regard as well.
It would almost be good if Mass in motion on the state level, you know, had someone, let's say Julie could call or some office to say, okay, we're at a little bit of an impasse here. Here's what we want to do, but, you know, it's this state agency that we're getting nowhere, or, you know, Julie doesn't have the ability, little Julie, to be dealing with, you know, I'm just going to say an agency, Mass DOT, or whatever, you know, or Mass EPA. You know, she doesn't have the ability, but okay, you know, that almost if they were within Mass in Motion, an advocate that the MIM programs can call and say, or an ombudsman, as we say in the hospital setting, you know, that can you work, or we're having trouble, we need someone to be contacted at this state agency to relook at this policy or reconsider, or here's what we're trying to do in Fall River, we need to get done at that level. You know, because our only recourse now has been to contact the state delegation, and we've worked kind of very closely, they've been very supportive, but, you know.
I'll bring that question back to
Right, you know,
and Cheryl and see
exactly
how
you can do it, you know. There's only so much we can do at a local level. But again, one state agency to another, things get done a lot better.
Just congratulate you on the great progress that you've made. You talked about, Dave, 5 years from now, what this place will look like, the infrastructure that you're creating, the partnerships that you're creating, the programs and policy. It's very exciting to witness, so congratulations.
Thank you.